Welcome to this how-to guide for contributing to the open source Ascend Git repository hosted in GitHub. In this video, we will go over the contribution requirements, license requirements, how to create a pull request, as well as some basic programming guidelines to follow. First, let's take a look at the contribution guidelines. It's important to understand each of these requirements for your contribution to be accepted. You can find an example of a well-documented README file in one of our GitHub projects. For your source code, you're required to use either C++ or Python as your primary development language. The organization of the project directory must be as follows. The project directory must contain a source folder where the source code is stored. It must also have a scripts folder containing the testcase.sh entry script of your project, as well as the host_version.conf configuration file that describes the product form and version mapping of your project. The entry script corresponds to the product platform on which you've developed. So for example, if you've developed on the Atlas 200tk platform, name your script testcase_200tk.sh. Your project should support at least one version of the Atlas TK as shown in the sample configuration file. The project directory must contain a README file in the .md format. It should contain an overview describing dependencies, method, and model source of the project, the inputs and outputs of a sample, environment variables, dependencies, libraries, and installation methods as outlined in the prerequisites section, the project file download methods by using either compressed package or the git clone command, the model download method from model zoo, requirements for offline model conversion, the ATC command for converting an original model to a DaVinci model, test data in the form of binary files, images, or videos, and their corresponding download links, the project build and run procedure as seen in the deploying and running the sample sections, and lastly, the post-inference validation method by using either a shell script or a Python script. Your project must also contain an appropriate license such as the Apache License 2.0. You may add a statement at the beginning of each source code file as shown in this README. For code migrated from other open source software, please add the license declaration. Your source code is expected to follow some programming guidelines, such as the pip 8 standard for Python code and Google C++ guidelines for C++. Your unit tests are also expected to follow standard frameworks such as PyTest as mentioned in the README guide. You must also pay close attention to all the points in the remarks section and make sure your code complies with all the suggested practices. Once you're ready to go ahead with your contribution, you will need to create a pull request to the repository. First, I'll navigate to the repository on a browser. I forked this repo to obtain my own copy of it. Note that everything live resides on the master branch. Here, I use the git clone command to download the repo to my local machine. Once I've downloaded a copy of the repo to my local machine, I will make changes on a separate branch so that it doesn't affect the main public project. I create a new branch test with the command git branch and check it out using the git checkout test command. I will make a quick modification in the README. We can use the command git status to view the modified files and git diff to preview all the changes. I use the command git add to stage all the changes and the git commit command to save the changes to the local repository. Next, I push my branch with the modification using the git push command. We should see a notification about the recently pushed branch on the repo browser window. Click on Compare and Pull Request. You may write a detailed description about your changes, and then submit the pull request by clicking on the Create Pull Request button. Please make sure that you sign the CLA agreement before your final submission. Thank you for watching.